It's amazing how one dream can sum up your entire life. When I laid my head down on my pillow one night, God gave me a revelation that changed my life completely and forever. In my dream, I could see myself very clearly. I wandered along a cliff, and as I wandered, I could see I was joyful. I know this because I had a smile on my face that was that of a child at Disneyland. Nothing seemed to be troubling me. I was quite content. My conscience always kept me far away from the edge of the cliff, and as long as I kept a safe distance, my life was uncomplicated and peaceful, and that was good. As I stare out in the distance, I could see a tree standing. It was absolutely without doubt the most beautiful piece of nature I have ever seen. It had the most enriching shades of green, with vines dressed in deep purple flowers. The tree was tall, and the branches appearing so strong. The leaves were large and hung from the tree in an inviting fashion. Holding it all together was its enormous trunk, standing tall and firm with great posture. I can hear the tree calling my name as if it was trying to lure me to it. In some weird way, I felt like the tree knew me, which enticed me to draw closer. Before I could realize where I was, I found myself standing right at the edge of the cliff. I was staring at this tree and feeling this level of excitement I have never experienced before. The tree was waving its branches, inviting me to play. It looked safe. Actually, it seemed fun and exciting to hang from the branches and swing from the vines, to play on it as if it was some kind of playground. It was very tempting. Now, as I was still on the cliff, I did weigh the options of staying where I felt secure and at peace, or to leave the cliff and take that leap into the unknown. This tree would not leave me alone. Although my conscience was telling me to stay away, I was too interested in seeing what this tree had to offer. My curiosity got the best of me. I slowly walked over to take a closer look. Once I reached the edge of the cliff, the ground gave way and my foot started to slip. As I tried to gain my balance, I felt a force pulling me over the edge. The harder I tried to regain my footing, the harder I could feel myself being pulled in the direction of the tree. I don't think I could control the situation anymore. Just then, from far away, I heard a voice. It was a soft, tender voice, but I can hear desperation in this voice. It called out to me, "Take my hand. I don't want you to fall." The voice was somewhat familiar, but I wasn't sure if I really recognized it. I did feel the voice wanting to help me because it sounded so comforting. I chose to ignore the voice as it would keep calling out to me and offering me the hand. I couldn't stay on the cliff any longer. My foot slipped, and I began to fall over the edge. I was now at the mercy of the tree. I didn't fall too far before the first tree branch caught me. I was surprised the fall didn't hurt. The branch held me like a mother holding her baby for the first time. How could I argue such a comfort? I soon came to realize while on the branch, I was not on just any tree branch. It was massive in size. I felt like I entered a whole other world. At this point, I had an urge to explore my new surroundings. It wasn't long before my life started to change. I became accustomed to telling lies. I was often angry. I became greedy and envious. I wanted to look like the models in magazines. I wanted the nicest car and the biggest house. I thought I could never have enough money. Gossip became like second nature. I was living an overabundant life, indulging in anything and everything. As I was living this lifestyle, I can still hear the voice, the one telling me to take his hand. The voice told me, "I know you fell, but I can help. Please take my hand." I continued on my journey and chose to ignore the voice. The journey took me to the next branch of the tree. There, a beautiful branch caught me and embraced me, inviting me to stay. As I spent time here, I did a lot of overindulging in things that should not be pleasing to me. Upon attending that first party and taking that first drink, I had no idea how my life would really begin to spiral downward. I thought it was just going to be one drink or one wild party. I had no idea all of this would lead to outbursts of anger and such selfish ambitions. Life became empty, and it was all about living for the addictions. I never concerned myself with helping other people because I was too concerned with how they can help me. The unthinkable thing is, while all of this stuff is going on in my life, I still considered myself to be a good person, but only by my own standards. I really had no one to compare myself to because everybody in my life was doing the same thing I was doing, living the same way I was living. So in my mind, I was a good person. Still, every so often, I could hear the voice, "Take my hand. You don't have to fall any farther." The farther I fell, the louder and more powerful the voice would call out to me. Still, I chose to ignore the voice. At this point, I was falling at such a rapid pace, it just seemed too impossible to climb back up the tree to the cliff where I knew I would be safe. I was very aware that the things I was doing were wrong. It wasn't in my heart to do these things. I wanted to stop, and I tried to stop. I couldn't find the strength or the will to do so. Every time I failed, I would just self-medicate in the sin of my choice. That uncomplicated life I left behind seemed so long ago. How could I ever get that back? It was easier to hide the pain and continue on with what I was doing. I fooled myself into thinking I was having fun. The voice would still speak to me, telling me it's not too late. Take my hand. At this point, I really considered the offer because the voice spoke with such authority. But I had a nagging feeling to continue on this voyage of mine. I shrugged my shoulders in a "what do I have to lose" manner, and I leaped onto the next branch. On this branch, I entertained impure thoughts, lustful thinking, and sexual immorality. While here, not only was I hurting myself, but this is where I hurt the people closest to me. The people I loved the most suffered the most from my selfish actions. I was overcome with regret and condemnation. I felt worthless and incapable of loving or being loved. I thought I didn't deserve happiness. Thoughts of suicide entered my mind. All of a sudden, this life wasn't so much fun anymore. As I looked down, I wasn't far from the ground. I knew this tree was causing me extreme pain. I had no more energy. I couldn't take one more minute on this tree. I rolled off the branch and onto the ground. I found myself lying among a pile of rocks. I believe this is signifying me hitting rock bottom. I was lying there so beat up, I don't think anybody could recognize me. I couldn't even recognize myself. I was hurt inside and out. I was bruised inside and out. I was scared, confused, and alone. I wondered why I was so eager to leave the innocence of the cliff. Why did I allow this tree so much power over my life? How could I ever recover from all this pain I caused myself and my family? I got to the point of giving up. When I felt I couldn't take another breath, I heard the voice, a soft whisper. It very simply said, "Please, take my hand." This time, I was able to recognize the voice. I knew this was my moment of surrender. I reached out and grabbed a hold of the hand, and I felt a comfort I have never experienced before. Then he opened his arms, and I drew closer to his embrace. I was automatically consumed by the feeling of everlasting love. I was right there in the arms of Jesus. This was a voice I had heard all along. It was my Lord. I said, Lord, I am so full of sin and iniquity. He said, He makes all things new. He told me I needed to believe in Him and put my trust in Him. He said, I need to turn away from that tree that caused me so much sin and left me so broken. He explained to me how He was there the whole time and that He had never left me. But it was ultimately my decision to choose holiness over sin. He told me I needed Him to inherit the kingdom of God. I felt a genuine love coming from Jesus. At that moment, I knew I needed to make a lifelong choice. Although that tree was fun and exciting, and it was definitely an adventure, I knew it would only lead to my death. Not just an earthly death, but an eternal death. I also knew I couldn't endure another fall. In one quick moment, it all became very clear to me. So with the biggest smile on my face and tears of joy streaming from my eyes, I fell to my knees. I put my hands on my heart and I confessed to the Lord my sins. I cried out, I choose you, Lord. I choose the cross. I ask for the grace and the mercy only you can give. I ask for your gift of salvation. I want you, Lord. I took that time to cry out to Him with an overwhelming love. At that very moment, all the darkness became clear and bright. Jesus lifted me up and carried me back to the cliff. As He carried me, I had a chance to reflect at where I had been. That tree was a tree full of sin. On the outside, it looked so beautiful. But now that the Lord has given me a vision from His holy perspective, it was ugly and uninviting. I'm so thankful by the grace of God, I never have to look back. The Lord told me since I put my faith in Him, He will never look back either. Through Him, I am free. I'm forgiven. I have been redeemed. I have a new identity in Christ. As I awake from my dream, I laid there and really focused on the cross and how many times I've taken Jesus and everything the cross stands for granted. I thought about how often I've taken the things so precious to me and put them in a box for my own self-gratification. I laid awake and concentrated on seeking the face of the Lord and just praying for His forgiveness for my trespasses. As I fell into deep prayer with the Lord, He spoke to me and said, You gave me your hand. I won't let you go. Trust in me. My life has changed, and because of the Lord and His forever faithful love, I have peace, love, joy, goodness, and faithfulness. And by the fruit of the Spirit, I have learned gentleness and self-control. If my foot starts to slip, I know He has my hand. He will not let me fall because He loves me.